You know that feeling when you're sitting at a dinner table, surrounded by family, and the air is so thick with tension you could cut it with a knife? That was my Thanksgiving this year. The turkey was dry, the wine was cheap, but the drama? The drama was absolutely top tier. I had spent the last 6 months trying to protect my peace and stay away from my toxic sister, specifically avoiding her baby shower for a very valid reason. I thought I was in the clear. I thought we could just eat some mashed potatoes and pretend to be a normal family for 3 hours. But then, right as the room went quiet, my grandma looked me dead in the eye and dropped the nuclear bomb. Before I tell you how I absolutely destroyed the family dynamic, let me know in the comments. Where are you guys watching from today? Drop your city or country below. Now, let's get into the mess. To understand why Thanksgiving turned into a literal war zone, you have to understand the dynamic between me and my sister, Jessica. Growing up, Jessica was the definition of the golden child. You know the type. She could set the house on fire, and my parents would blame me for leaving matches in the drawer. I was the older sister, the responsible one, the scapegoat. I got good grades, worked part-time jobs, and kept my head down. Jessica. She was chaotic, demanding, and somehow always the victim. My parents enabled her behavior for decades. If Jessica wanted something, she got it. If she made a mistake, my parents cleaned it up. And usually, I was the one paying the price. When I moved out at 18, I promised myself I would build a life far away from their dysfunction. And honestly, I did a great job. I built a career, I have a great partner, and I have my own home. But family guilt is a powerful thing, so I stayed in contact. Low contact, but contact nonetheless. Fast forward to this year. Jessica is pregnant. Now, for most families, this is a joyous occasion. But with Jessica, a pregnancy isn't just a life event. It's a coronation. She expected the world to stop spinning because she was having a baby. The demands started instantly. She wanted a gender reveal party that cost more than my wedding. She wanted a registry filled with designer gear that she definitely couldn't afford. And naturally, she expected the family, meaning me, to foot the bill. The breaking point, however, wasn't the money. It was her attitude. She treated me like an ATM with a pulse. She would call me up, not to ask how I was, but to send me links to cribs that cost $3,000. When I told her I couldn't fund her lifestyle, she told our parents I was being jealous because she was hitting milestones before me. It was classic gaslighting. My mom would call me and say, "Just buy her the stroller, you know how emotional she is right now." They didn't care about my boundaries. They just wanted to keep Jessica happy so they didn't have to deal with her tantrums. But I stood my ground. I told them I would send a gift, but I wouldn't be financing the event. That's when the invite for the baby shower came. It wasn't just an invite, it was a summons. And I knew if I went, I would be bullied into writing checks I didn't want to write. So, I made a choice. I marked no on the RSVP. And that is where the real trouble started. You won't believe what they did when they got that RSVP card. When I sent that RSVP, I expected some backlash. I expected a passive-aggressive text from my mom or a snarky Facebook status from Jessica. What I didn't expect was a full-blown smear campaign. A week before the shower, I started getting messages from distant relatives. Aunts I haven't spoken to in years, cousins I only see at funerals. They were sending me paragraphs about family duty and how cruel I was being to a pregnant woman. It turns out, Jessica had spun a narrative that I wasn't coming because I hated her baby. She told everyone I was bitter, infertile, which I'm not, and trying to ruin her moment out of spite. But here is the truth, and this is the part my family conveniently forgets. 3 years ago, Jessica stole from me. Like, legally actionable theft. I had a savings account that my grandmother, the same one mentioned in the title, had set up for us. When Jessica maxed out her credit cards, she somehow convinced my parents to access my portion of the fund to bail her out. They drained $10,000 of my money to pay off her debt. When I found out, my parents begged me not to press charges, promising they would pay me back. They never did. Jessica never even apologized. She actually said, "You have a good job, you don't need it as much as I do." So no, I wasn't skipping the baby shower because I was jealous. I was skipping it because I refused to celebrate a person who stole my financial security and showed zero remorse. I refused to sit in a room full of people pretending she was an angel while I knew she was a thief. I tried to explain this to my mom when she called me crying about the RSVP. I said, "Mom, she stole 10 grand from me. I am not going to sit there and watch her open gifts when she still owes me money." My mom's response? "That's in the past. You need to let it go for the sake of the baby." That phrase, "for the sake of the family," is the most toxic sentence in the English language. It's just code for "let us abuse you so we don't have to feel uncomfortable." I was done. I muted the group chat. I blocked a few flying monkeys, aka my cousins. I stayed home on the day of the shower, ordered takeout, and binge-watched TV. It was peaceful. It was quiet. But as Thanksgiving approached, the anxiety started creeping back in. I knew I had to go. My grandpa is getting older, and I didn't want to miss time with him just because my sister is a nightmare. I told myself I would go, eat, keep my mouth shut, and leave early. I had a game plan. I was going to be the bigger person. I had no idea that they had a game plan, too. Leading up to Thanksgiving, the atmosphere was weirdly quiet. Usually, my phone would be blowing up with demands for me to bring specific dishes or coordinate gifts. This time, radio silence. It felt like the calm before the storm. A few days before the dinner, I was scrolling through YouTube to distract myself, and I saw a video title that stopped me in my tracks. It was called, "I refused to go to my sister's baby shower, and now my whole family hates me." I clicked on it, and as I listened to the story, my jaw hit the floor. The details were different, but the dynamic was exactly the same. The entitlement, the enabling parents, the guilt tripping. It was validating to see that I wasn't the only one dealing with this insanity. It made me realize that I wasn't the villain in my story, no matter how hard they tried to paint me as one. That video gave me a weird sense of confidence. I realized that if thousands of people online could side with the person setting boundaries, then I wasn't crazy. I walked into Thanksgiving dinner with that energy. I wasn't going to be the doormat anymore. I arrived at my parents' house around 2 p.m. The driveway was packed. I took a deep breath, put on my customer service smile, and walked in. Immediately, the vibe was off. You know when you walk into a room and everyone stops talking? It was that. My mom gave me a stiff hug and whispered, "Please, just be nice today." Jessica was sitting on the couch, holding her bump like she was the Virgin Mary, surrounded by ants fawning over her. She looked up at me, smirked, and said loud enough for the room to hear, "Oh look, the stranger finally decided to show up." I ignored it. I walked past her, went straight to my grandpa, and gave him a huge hug. For the first hour, I managed to dodge the bullets. I helped in the kitchen, I talked sports with my uncles, and I avoided being in the same room as Jessica alone. I thought I was handling it perfectly. But looking back, I realized they were just waiting for the audience to be seated. They didn't want to start a fight in the kitchen. They wanted a show at the dinner table. We all sat down. The turkey was carved. Grace was said. Dishes were passed around. I was starting to relax, thinking maybe we'd get through this without a scene. I was spooning cranberry sauce onto my plate when the clinking of silverware stopped. The table went silent. And then, my grandma spoke. Now, you have to understand something about my grandma. She is 82 years old, has zero filter, and misses absolutely nothing. But she's also been fed a steady diet of lies by my mother and Jessica for years. She doesn't use social media, she doesn't text. She only knows what they tell her. She looked across the table, adjusted her glasses, and in that sweet old lady voice, asked, "Maya, honey, I saw the photos from Jessica's baby shower. It looked beautiful, but I didn't see you in any of them. Why didn't you come to your sister's baby shower?" The silence was deafening. It wasn't just quiet, it was a vacuum. My mom froze with her fork halfway to her mouth. Jessica smirked, looking down at her plate, pretending to be shy. My dad suddenly found the tablecloth very interesting. I looked at my mom, waiting for her to jump in. I waited for her to say, "Oh, Maya had work," or she wasn't feeling well. I gave her the chance to cover it up. I gave her the chance to save the holiday. But she didn't. She stayed silent. She wanted me to be the one to say it. Or better yet, she wanted me to fumble, look like the bad guy, and apologize in front of everyone. It was a trap. They wanted me to publicly bow down to the golden child. I looked at Jessica. She was practically vibrating with glee. She wanted me to look petty in front of Grandma. I took a sip of my water. I set the glass down slowly. I looked at Grandma, and I decided right then and there, no more lies. If they wanted to bring this up in public, we were going to discuss it in public. "Well, Grandma," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "I wasn't invited because I didn't pay the entrance fee." Confusion washed over Grandma's face. "Entrance fee? What do you mean?" "I mean," I continued, locking eyes with my father now, "that I didn't feel comfortable celebrating Jessica's financial milestones when she still hasn't paid me back the $10,000 she stole from my savings account 3 years ago." A gasp went around the table. Literal gasps. My aunt dropped her napkin. "Maya!" my mother shrieked. "This is not the time." "You asked," I said, turning back to Grandma, whose face was turning pale. "Jessica and Mom and Dad drained the savings account you set up for me to pay off Jessica's credit card debt. They never paid me back. And when I refused to buy her a $3,000 stroller because of it, they told me I wasn't welcome at the shower unless I brought a check." The explosion that happened next was something I will never forget. The table erupted. "You liar!" Jessica screamed, standing up so fast her chair fell backward. "You are just jealous because I'm having a baby and you're alone." "I'm not alone, Jessica," I said calmly. "I'm just not a thief." Grandma slammed her hand on the table. "Is this true?" She looked at my father. "Robert, did you take the money I gave Maya?" My dad started stuttering. "Mom, look, it was a family emergency. Jessica was in trouble." "Shopping at Sephora is not an emergency," I yelled. The calm was gone. "She maxed out her cards on clothes and vacations, and you made me pay for it." My mother stood up now, face red. "How dare you ruin Thanksgiving? You are selfish. You have always been selfish. Look at your sister. She is pregnant. You are stressing her out. She stressed herself out when she spent my money." I shot back. At this point, the flying monkey ants started chiming in, telling me I should be ashamed of myself for bringing up money at the dinner table. But then, something amazing happened. My grandpa, who had been silent the entire time, cleared his throat. "Quiet," he said. He didn't yell, but the authority in his voice shut everyone up. He looked at me. "Maya, send me your bank statements and the proof of the withdrawal tomorrow." Then he looked at Jessica and my parents. "If this is true, I am removing all of you from the will. I will not have thieves in this family." Jessica started sobbing. Fake, hysterical tears. My mom was trying to comfort her while simultaneously screaming at me to get out. "Don't worry," I said, grabbing my purse. "I'm leaving. And don't expect me for Christmas." I walked out of that house with my heart pounding out of my chest. I could hear screaming all the way to the driveway. I got in my car, locked the doors, and just sat there for a minute. I thought I would feel guilty. I thought I would feel sad. But honestly, I felt lighter than I had in years. The drive home was the best drive of my life. I stopped at a gas station, bought a sandwich and a bag of chips, and ate my Thanksgiving dinner in peace. It's been 3 days since Thanksgiving. My phone has been blowing up, but I haven't answered a single call. I have 42 voicemails from my mother, ranging from her screaming at me to her crying and begging me to tell Grandpa I was lying. I didn't lie. I sent Grandpa the bank statements this morning. He replied with a thumbs up emoji. That's it. Just a thumbs up. I think the golden child reign is officially over. Jessica posted a long rant on Facebook about toxic family members and cutting out negativity, but she blocked me from seeing it. My cousin sent me the screenshots. Everyone in the comments is supporting her, of course, because they don't know the truth. But the people who matter, my grandpa and myself, we know the truth. I've decided to go fully no contact with my parents and Jessica. I can't do it anymore. I realized that by keeping the peace, I was waging a war against myself. That viral video I watched was right. Sometimes, refusing to show up is the only way to save yourself. I know the holidays are hard for a lot of people. If you are dealing with a toxic family, or if you are being gaslit into thinking you're the problem, just know you are not alone. You are allowed to have boundaries. You are allowed to say no to baby showers, weddings, and Thanksgiving dinners if it means protecting your mental health. I might have ruined Thanksgiving in their eyes, but I saved my own life. And honestly, that sandwich from the gas station tasted better than any turkey they ever made. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever had a holiday disaster or a toxic sibling, let me know in the comments. I read all of them. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more real-life drama, truths, and confessions, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe to Older Says True. We have so many more stories coming your way. Stay strong, set those boundaries, and I'll see you in the next one.